Teachers of Reddit, what is the smartest, most creative way of cheating that you've seen? In a lot of my college courses I wasn't allowed to use anything higher than a TI-84. So I took the guts of my TI-89 and swapped it into my TI-84. Never got caught. Not sure if this would work anymore, but if I had a paper to write on a book I didn't read, I would find a well-written paper online. Then translate the entire thing from English to German, German to French, French to Spanish, then Spanish back to English. Pull the original paper and the new one up side by side and clean up the grammar on the new paper, and you've got the same concept, but written just different enough to not be plagiarism. Worked like a charm. I remember a story from my chem professor. This student all semester who wasn't showing up to class kept getting his score improved significantly after regrades. They got their tests back, had a day to review them, and were allowed to resubmit for a regrade. They knew he was cheating because of the unlikelihood of the grading mistakes on multiple exams, but the TAs who graded it couldn't confidently say it wasn't their handwriting. Ultimately it was an office worker for the department who figured it out near the end of the semester. His staples were angled different than the exams handed out that were mass stapled. He was recreating the test, printing it, re-answering it, and then grading it in the same pen as the TAs, and had done a good job copying the writing style. Or, such a small detail. R.I.P. My teacher shared with us a story about how, since she allowed eating during her tests, one person pulled out a giant bag of M&M. Miss and ate a specific color corresponding to ABCD. It was a two-student duo and they only got caught when another student ratted them out. One of my old teachers told us a story about a student who had rigged up a tiny scroll of paper in a wristwatch with notes written on it. He turned the scroll by winding the watch. He ended up getting caught because he was winding his watch so damn much during the exam, but the teacher loved the creativity. In elementary middle school we had to write a paragraph each week featuring all the vocabulary words included in that unit. One clever kid wrote something along these lines: one day kid's name had to write a paragraph for English class. He sat down, picked up a pen and used these words in it, proceeds to list out all the words. The teacher only let it go once because she never saw that happen until then. Not a teacher, but I used to use one of those rectangular erasers because the pencils the teacher gave us were cheap and the erasers only smudged the marks. The eraser came in a cardboard sleeve and I ripped it open and would write test answers on it, then erase it after exams for reuse. College physics. Girl with a really intricate tattoo on her leg wrote formulas in between the tattoo lines. Even looking closely you couldn't tell unless you knew what you were looking for. You could tell it was test day because she wore shorts. High school kids recreated a Snapple label where the nutrition panel on the back had all the answers, formulas, etc. Only got caught because I'd never seen the flavor before and wanted to see how much sugar was in it. I can imagine how worried they were when you inspected the bottle like, oh, how much sugar is in this? You're all failing. I can name the worst, and I've definitely shared it before, but it wasn't my student, it was a friend's. She'd downloaded a worksheet for the kids to do while she was in a meeting of some sort. Kids found the worksheet's answer sheet online and proceeded to copy the answers. Last answer said student responses will vary. And that's what one kid wrote as his answer. Other times you'll see one kid misspells something or gets an answer wrong, and everyone who copied from him has the same error. This happened to our entire group of chem students last year. Everyone in the classes were cheating on the homework, because the answers were always online. In the second semester, someone made the mistake of writing answers may vary, and the teacher finally realized we were all cheating. A classmate broke the screen and keyboard of his calculator and hid his cell phone in it, so it couldn't be seen from the teacher's position. The teacher approached him from behind and caught him too. I was a TA for anatomy and physiology. The professor would ask for me to sit in on finals to prevent cheating. One kid came in with a vitamin water. No worries. Halfway through the test the professor noticed they kept turning the bottle and squinting. This goes on for another 20 minutes. Professor goes up, grabs the vitamin water bottle and rips off the label. It had a crib sheet written on the back. The student had gone to the effort to make a fake vitamin water bottle label and write notes in the back. The professor was impressed by the creativity and decided to give the student a 0 and not report them to the academic committee. I passed a pop quiz in high school by looking across the room and focusing on the top of the smart girl's pencil and trying to decipher if she wrote A, B, C or D after the teacher asked each question. It actually turned out more successful than I thought it would. So, not a teacher, but I witnessed probably the biggest cheating-related scandal in our high school's history. For context, we had the sweetest old guy as our chem teacher. He called everyone bud, or buddy, or ma'am. He always helped. He volunteered to teach driver's ed after school so kids could learn to drive. He always had a twinkle in his eye because he genuinely showed love and kindness to everyone. A side effect of this was that he was very trusting. So one day, before finals, he ran to the bathroom during class while everyone was wrapping up their lab reports. While he was gone, someone ran to his desk, found the finals just sitting there, snapped a pic, and then ran back to their desk before he got back. Somehow, no one tackled. Probably because 90% of our grade level in that class was on board with it. The pictures got texted around, but a few people were smart enough to Bluetooth into each other so it couldn't be tracked. WELLLLLL after the test, everyone had high scores and apparently someone confessed. This resulted in a huge investigation by the assistant principals, school police officer, and faculty. They traced every text message and busted so many people, all except the ones who transferred via Bluetooth. They had to reissue the test. Man, that was crazy. I felt so bad for the teacher. He was really sad someone had taken advantage of him, and I was too. Such a good dude. I was grading a written assignment that had a 1,000 word count minimum, and one particular paper just felt really short to me despite Word telling me it was roughly 1,100 words long. On a hunch I hit Ctrl A, and sure enough after the paper concluded there was a lot of white nonsense text on a white background. My girlfriend works for a dental exam company, which are obviously super high stakes exams. Since the exams are worldwide, they have actually found people from one time zone paying people from another time zone to email questions to them right before the exam starts. Stretch a rubber band around a textbook, write whatever you want on it, then when you take it off the textbook, it'll just look like scribble until you stretch it to see what's written. Spanish conjugations drove me to do some incredibly unethical things. I had class in the AM with a kid who was a TA for my physics class the afternoon before, weird period system at my old school. He would tell me the answers to app tests he had graded the day before, and I would write them in black ink on the side of the sole of my black boots. I would then sit with my leg bent with my foot on my knee and read the answers during the test. You couldn't see them unless the light hit the ink just right. After the test I would just lick my finger and smudge the answers out. As a student, I remember when my entire year level was accused of cheating, as the test results came back consistently high. What the teachers failed to realize was that some of the answers were actually hidden in other questions. So if you got stuck on one question, you could find the answer later on in another question. An example would be, this was a Japanese language test, what does word mean? And later on, a question would use that word in context, so you would understand what that word meant. I'm a high school teacher, but this story is about my own high school math teacher playing us and cheating. It was an honors algebra geometry class, and it was well known that Mr. D reused the same questions every year, just changed the numbers. He made a big deal about making sure we all gave our exam papers back to him after we had looked at our scores and gone over everything together to prevent cheating for the next year. Well, Of course, some of my classmates got their hands on a complete set of tests from the previous year. Soon, everyone had a set. Before each exam, we would sit together and make sure we knew how to solve every problem on that test so we could do it on the real exam with different numbers. Years later, when I became a teacher myself, I saw Mr. D at a funeral. I confessed to him that this is what we used to do. He smirked and said, "Who do you think leaked the test packet to get you to study?" Mr. D had figured out that kids won't study if the teacher suggests it, but if they think they're getting away with something, they totally will, so he managed to get a test packet out and circulating as contraband. Blew my mind.